If you knew you were enough, what would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzette. Hello everybody, it's your life coach and relationship solutionist, Suzette Birnon, and welcome to my Enough Factor podcast. I am always so excited to welcome you because I realize that out of all the wonderful podcasts out there that you could be listening to right now, you decided to tune into mine. And so each week, I endeavor to amplify what I have found to be 3 critical factors of your enoughness. They are your voice, your value, and your vision. And I am so excited to take a deeper dive into today's topic. I've been working on a media pitch focusing on failed relationships and their consequences to women's experience of not only love, but themselves in love situations. And one of the things in introducing myself on the media pitch that I wanted to convey is what sets me apart from other relationship coaches and experts out there, many of whom are more popular than me and might even be viewed as more credible because of their popularity. And I thought about it and I said, you know what? Let me introduce myself to my podcast listeners, just in case they're wondering what makes me different. So I'm going to give you the long-handed version of it, knowing that my media pitch bio can't be anything more than maybe 2, at the most 3 sentences. But I want to give you my heart, from my heart. What makes me different? Especially those of you who this is your first time tuning in. You know, for those of you that tune in often, or you've had a consultation with me, or I've coached you, you've already determined for yourself what makes me different. And I would love to hear what that is, okay? But this is my intention, okay? I am not a tips and techniques type of coach. Neither am I a why you're not married. This is how you get your man type of coach. There are enough people swimming in those waters. And I get it. We are really attracted to reaching goals. So when we hear 5 steps to get a man, we get excited. Or 10 steps to make him stay, we get excited. But the truth is, knowing that is just good information. You can assume the role because your goal is to get the man. But you see, after 30 plus years of nipping and tucking and contorting to that tune, I know that getting the man is only the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't solve the deeper need that oftentimes goes unanswered. Knowing you are enough. Because when you do those things that people tell you to do, your getting him is based on your performing in compliance to what they say, their definition. But it does precious little to help you to be clear about your own enoughness. If you don't know you're enough, it doesn't matter if you get the man, get the ring, get the life. You will feel like an imposter. You will feel like it was something you did, but it wasn't who you are. You'll think that he loves you because you did the right things. But what happens when you can no longer do those things, or when you no longer want to? What will happen then? That's why the focus of my relationship coaching is your authentic truth. For contained therein is your true definition of your enoughness. That's the only way you'll stop betraying yourself, losing yourself, second-guessing yourself, and being afraid to be yourself. That's the only thing that will keep you from going from relationship expert to relationship expert, looking for answers to questions that only you can answer. That's why my coaching is to help you to discover why you are enough, so you can stop betraying yourself, so you can do love differently, and so you can recognize your Mr. Right. It's how you answer the question, what makes me enough? And that answer coming from what you know about you and deeply and profoundly respect about you, to the point you can no longer be seduced into betraying yourself. There is no loving so good that you will betray you. I won't include all that in my media pitch. But just in case this is your first time tuning in, or you've been listening for a while, I want you to be sure of my why for coaching as I do, for being as passionate as I am, and that you'll not only get the relationship, but you'll know how to be in a good one. Because you know the good in yourself. You'll know how to bring that good into a relationship. So if that's what you want, you're in the right place. Because I tell people all the time, it's not just getting a man. That's not the only goal. You want to be happy with what you got. Can I get an amen, somebody? You don't want to be miserable once you get him, right? And so you have to set that intention before, instead of waiting after it. Now, in a previous episode, episode 10 to be exact, I focused on being careful who you listen to. Today, I want to focus on what you are hearing. There are two podcasts that are my go-tos. I don't listen to a lot of them, but these two, I'm telling you, they just do it for me. The first is Redefining Wealth. Shout out to the incomparable Patrice Washington. And the second is Women of Impact. Shout out to Lisa Bilyeu. The reason I listen to them is because they resonate with me. And while something inside of me gets a hit of pleasure repeatedly from the insights shared and that feeling of resonance, nothing changes in my life from that alone. Because it's not what they or their guests say. It's what I hear that matters, and what me is hearing it. Listening and hearing is not the same thing. So what's the difference, Miss Suzette? Well, I'm glad you asked. Listening is acknowledging the validity of what is being said. Your inner ear perks up. But hearing is being called to act based on what you've heard. My intention today is to appeal to the authentic you, not the you who's trying to be great. Now, let me say something about the whole trying to be great thing, because I hear that a lot now. If something goes wrong, we say, this is trying to not let me be great, right? And I get it. It's telling the people, the haters, the challenges, the squealing mics to get out of your way so you can be who you are. And that's great. Right? So you just speaking to the things that are trying to block your greatness. Now, I'm not talking about the great that you already are. When I say the you who is trying to be great, I'm talking to the you that feels like you have to compensate for what you feel like is not great, what you feel like is lacking, what you feel like is not good enough, smart enough, for what you feel like is not worthy. Now, when that is the you that's showing up, that's the you in opposition to the authentic you, which is the great you. So when I talk about who's hearing, I'm asking, is it the authentic you, aka the great you, or is it the you that's confused? I want you, the authentic you, to take center stage. And I want you to unplug from the confused you that's trying to be something that you think you're not. You are enough. And your greatness wouldn't be great if it was contingent on the actions of others. To be honest, most of us don't even recognize what truly makes us great. We think it's one thing when divine understanding knows it's something that comes so easy, you don't even notice it. Okay. Now that I've gotten that out, let's get back to knowing if you truly heard something. Okay? I can say to you all day long that you deserve love. And you may listen to me say it every time. But when you've heard it like a friend of mine that says, in your sha-na-na, meaning it connects with profound truth inside of you, movement will follow. Movement will follow. Why? Because number one, hearing evokes action. And for the purposes of this episode and this podcast, and the you I'm appealing to, what I'm saying today, I want it to align with the authentic you, with the you that knows she's great. A woman who hears these words, you deserve love, and recognizes herself in those words, she doesn't need to ask anybody what she should do to make those words a reality in her life. She'll look at what doesn't line up with it, and she'll set things in order. That's how you know you've heard something. It goes beyond confusion, right? And gets to authentic truth. And you cannot hear authentic truth without being moved to act accordingly. The second thing about hearing is hearing brings order. I've already alluded to that. You recognize what's out of order and you set things in order. And it doesn't matter how much someone agrees with what's out of order. It doesn't matter. And for me, as a coach and as the host of this podcast, it doesn't matter how much someone agrees with what I'm saying. Nothing will change until they make the connection to what I'm saying for themselves. And I truly believe that's why people go from relationship expert to relationship expert, asking different experts the same question, looking for answers to the same question, and why the answer to that question keeps eluding them no matter who they listen to. It's because they haven't connected with their own answer. They haven't heard to the level of authentic truth. So I have to ask you, as you listen to my podcast episodes and listen to this one, what are you getting? Do you find what I say stirring? And that's all? Does it only evoke an amen, sister, out of you? And you are content with being emotionally stimulated? Or you feel something and that's enough for you? Is it an adrenaline rush that makes you want to call up your friends and tell them what you heard? But after gushing with each other about how profound it is, will you go back home and snuggle up in the feel good of it, but do nothing about it? If you hear something and you return to complacency, you haven't really heard it. And the same thing is true. If you hear what I'm saying to you and you're not evoked to action, to transformation, then you haven't fully heard me. You heard the you, the complacent you, the you that's used to the familiar. But you haven't heard to the point that it's connected with your authentic truth. Now, if your love life is fine, it is of no consequences. But if your love life is not as satisfying as you want it to be, I think cultivating an ear to hear is what you should focus on. Because there's a disconnect. There's some faulty wiring that's getting in the way of you hearing to the depth where change and transformation happen. What are you hearing? What are you hearing that is allowing you to stay where you are, tolerate what you don't want, and complain about it, but do nothing about it? Let me tell you something. Reading books isn't going to do it. It isn't. Reading books isn't doing anything about it. Listening to videos isn't doing anything about it. Being mentally and emotionally stimulated is not doing anything about it. Running after something else is not doing anything about it. Even going to therapy to find out why you are doing what you're doing is not doing anything about it. Action that creates the change that you need is doing something about it. It isn't until you can hear from authentic truth that you are roused to action. Authentic truth doesn't need validation. It only needs to be heard. It already knows with an urgency that nothing else can duplicate. To act apart from it is desperation. There is a power that comes when you align with your authentic truth. You have the grace to set things in order. You have the grace to confront what you've been avoiding. You have the inner fortitude to hold yourself and someone else to a higher level accountability. It's no longer high hopes. It's divine resonance. How many of you out there want divine resonance? Well, if you do, I'm so glad that God has put that kind of tuning fork inside of our souls that recognizes the call when we hear it, the call to what you're destined to have. And as I told someone when I was doing the taping to be a guest on their podcast, I told them, I said, people need to understand that God is concerned about your love life. He cares about your love life. And he cares so much that he's put something inside of you, a recognition for when the person that you're in love with or in interacting romantically with is just not doing what they need to do to give you what you need in order to thrive in your relationships. Romantic love should not be the end of your thriving. Romantic love should not be the beginning of your tolerating. Romantic love should not be the beginning of the end of you. What's yours recognizes when something is out of order and there's nothing you can do to try to convince it otherwise. It recognizes when something is off. It recognizes when you are off. It recognizes when something is out of order, when it doesn't fit, when it's not the feeling that you're supposed to be getting from love. It knows when it's time for you to move from where you are to where you're supposed to be. When you've heard, like really heard, you can't numb it. You can't shush it. You can't avoid it. You can't sleep without it waking you up. You can't rationalize not hearing it. It is relentless and it will not let you sink back into complacency, into denial. There is an urgency that comes with hearing that you cannot cover your ears and make it go away. I believe that's why the Bible says faith comes by hearing. Hearing produces, hearing evokes, hearing elevates. You can't say the same when you hear. You can't think the same when you hear. Everything in your life has to organize around what you hear, else you really haven't heard it. Women that come to me want to feel heard. They do. It affirms them. It validates them. Being heard is being loved. No matter how much people tell you something, you haven't really heard it until it moves you. You got to feel it before you'll act on it. You might not know what to do at first. You might not know quite how to respond, but you know movement is necessary. So you start asking, seeking, knocking until you know what you don't know. You start looking for answers. You start involving yourself in getting clear about how to best answer it. I remember the day I knew my first marriage was over. I was sitting on the steps of my townhome, of our townhome, and it had been 4.5 years of trying to make the marriage work and having nothing to show for it. Instead of things getting better, things were getting worse. And I was seeing my husband becoming more emboldened toward the worst. He no longer heard me. He had turned a deaf ear to me. And there was nothing I could do to make him hear me. It wasn't that I lost him. I never had him. Yet I thought marriage meant I did. So, up until that point, I kept trying and trying to make it work. I tried so much and so hard until I lost my ability to hear the sound of my own voice. I lost my own sense of value. I lost my own vision. I tried so much until I lost my own sense of agency and self-respect. I tried so hard until I had no more energy. So as I sat on those steps, I realized it wasn't defeat that I was hearing. It was the voice that had been silenced because of my efforts to drown it out. It was the voice of the truth. I said, is it even worth it? Is trying to keep this marriage even worth it? Now, my mom didn't hear what I was hearing. She heard defeat. She heard, oh, my baby's giving up. And she said, baby, don't say that. Right? Now, I can't tell you to this day what else she said, because all I could hear was the volume being turned up because I said, is it even worth it? From that moment on, I stopped hiding from the truth. I stopped hearing other people's beliefs and opinions, and I just kept letting those words, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Those words just started rolling over and over and over and bringing me and more and more out of my unconscious state. I started seeing what I didn't see, what I didn't want to see. I started hearing what I didn't want to hear. I saw that I could no longer live as if I didn't know. That's when I heard enough for me to take action. Now, your situation may not be like mine, But one thing's for sure, hearing evokes movement. Hearing evokes action. What are you hearing? What voices are you trying to live up to? Is it getting you what it is you really want? Is trying it their way helping you or causing you to betray you? What are you hearing? It's not what I say. It's not what they say. It's what you hear that makes the difference. Chaos is the universe's way of telling you something is off. There is a disorder somewhere. It's not so that you can cover your ears and run out screaming. It's to evoke you to use your power to set things in order. If you are unhappy in your relationship, then something's out of order. And it's not up to your lover to set it straight. It's up to you to set it straight. Because you're the one that's suffering. If you're the one that's discontent and unhappy, if you're the one that's tolerating what you don't want, then the universe is trying to shake you awake, to unstop your ears so that you can hear the voice of your discontent and allow it to lead you to your authentic truth. The answer is not in avoiding it. The answer is in aligning with your authentic truth. So how do you do that? First, you can't do it on your own. If you could, you wouldn't be listening to me right now. If you could, things would be different right now. You would be hilariously happy with the man that you're with. Your inner chaos is a sign that some part of you is not being heard. It is being overwhelmed and it needs you to hear it. So you have to go. You have to go where you can hear it. You have to get out of that environment and into one where you can hear your authentic truth. What I learned early in coaching is it's not my job to make you hear me. My job is to help you to hear yourself, to amplify what's most meaningful to you, your voice, your value, your vision, so you can recognize what makes you enough. It's not what I say, it's what you hear. So my biggest hope is that by listening to me, you'll better hear you. And if you want a safe place that's conducive to your aligning with your inner truth and hearing your authentic voice, then I invite you to reach out. You can send me an email. You can direct message me on Instagram or on Facebook. I promise you, it is me that responds. Or if you want a first timer free consultation with me, look in the show notes I have all my contact information readily available for you. And don't spend not one more day in confusion. You don't have to continue to suffer. You deserve love. You deserve love. So until next time, I'm going to keep saying it until it connects to the authentic truth inside of you. You are worthy. You are worth it. You are more than enough. Bye now. You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Bernard. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.